Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest Aurelian Coaching webinar. This is a workshop. So for all of you who have signed up, you are going to work for this next hour, but it's going to be so good. And I'm going to work with you. Why we're here is we are going to apply the DART method of deliberate planning to your 2021 goals. Okay. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar, the DART method of deliberate planning is a system that I created, refined over many years, but the intent was to surface the reasons people don't meet their goals and address those once and for all. Okay, so there are lots of planning systems out there, and they're good. They're good planning systems. And yet, we don't always meet our goals. Why is that? After a lot of research and talking to people who are very, very good at meeting all of their goals, often exceeding their goals, I developed the DART method. And so there is an entire webinar series on the 4 steps of the DART method. And that's available on the YouTube channel that I have. So you can go to YouTube and search Aurelian Coaching. My YouTube channel will come up and there's a playlist on the DART method. So you can, if you want to do a deep dive after this webinar, after this workshop, you absolutely can. All of that information is available there for you. But today, we're going to apply it. We're going to apply it. And your only preparation was to bring one goal that you want to meet or exceed in 2021. And I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to walk you through the 4 steps of the DART method. I'm going to do it myself. I have a 2021 goal. I have goals. So I'm going to do this for myself so that you guys can see how it's applied. And I'm just not here telling you do it this way and do it that way. No, you guys can see how I do this. I apply the DART method almost every day, seriously. Because once you become practiced at it, it's like 10 minutes. It's so good. And you guys will see an example of somebody else applying it so that it makes sense for how you should apply it for your goal. Let's begin. Okay, guys, you were supposed to bring one goal. My goal is to start a podcast in 2021. I am so excited about this. I'm so nervous about this. I've never done a podcast before. I see lots of people doing podcasts, lots and lots. So I'm going to do it. So that's my goal. And every step of the DART method will be through the lens of starting a podcast in 2021. Okay. You should name your goal. You have it written down somewhere. That's great. Okay. Step 1 of the DART method is to define a desired condition or a desired outcome or an ultimate purpose that your goals are intended to support. Your goals are there to get you somewhere. The goals have to have a purpose, right? You're not just having goals just to have goals, right? So with this goal that you have in mind, what is that goal getting you toward? What is that goal helping you ultimately achieve? What desired condition of your personal life or your professional life is that goal going to be supporting? Now, for me, this is step 1 of the DART method. Purpose, desired outcome, desired condition. For me, my desired outcome is to make sure that people who can't afford my coaching can still get the tools to improve emotional management in the workplace. To me, this is about access of information, right? So that is my ultimate desired outcome, is make sure everybody has access to this critically important information. Okay, so that's what I'm going to write down. You guys see that? Okay, there you go. That is my desired outcome, desired purpose. The reason you need to have that is it serves as an anchor for you as you go through the rest of your goal planning, as you execute through the course of the year. You need to be anchored in, why the heck am I even doing this? Right? So that's why you have to define that up front. Okay, step 2. You ready? Okay, step 2 is made up of the acronym DART. Okay, so what DART stands for is decision, accountability, rationale, and timeline. Timeline. Okay, so the whole purpose of getting this goal met or exceeded is you can't just set a goal and then kind of put it out there and cross your fingers, right? This is a proactive process. This is proactive, which means that as you're planning out 2021 for this goal, you have to make decisions. What are you going to do? What are you prepared to do to make sure that you meet this goal? I came up with some decisions. You want to hear them? Okay, let's do step 2, which is DART. And what I typically do, you could do this in a lot of different ways. For any of you who have the DART worksheets or the entire DART workbook, you will have seen a table. I often put this in a table format just because it helps me organize things, but I've seen other people and just write it out and do it in different ways, but I'm going to do it in a table format. 1 column for each letter, 1 row for each decision that I'm going to make toward that goal. And then I'll walk you through them. Okay. All right. Okay. DART. What's my first decision? Okay. How much do I know about doing a podcast? Not much. Not much. I probably ought to learn a little something from people who've done this before and who've taught other people how to do it before. So I'm going to take an online course. Jenna Kutcher has a good course that gets rave reviews. And so I'm going to take her course. That is decision number 1. Take a course on podcasting. Who's accountable to that? Who's going to do that? At the end of the day, once this timeline is met, who is the person that will be able to report completed or not completed? It's me. No one else. Nobody else is going to take that course for me. Okay. Here's the important part of step 2, is the rationale for why that decision makes sense to support my goal and get me to my desired outcome. Why would I take a course? Okay. Guys, don't fall into the trap of, it's so obvious. No. Spend some time thinking about the rationale behind that decision. Why does that decision make sense within this context? Why does making this particular decision get me closer to my desired condition? For me, the rationale behind taking a course, this is an investment I need to make. I have to pay for that, right? There are online courses. I don't want to take the free ones. I want one that has true value, has lots of good reviews, right? One that's been validated. Okay, but that's going to cost me money. Okay, why would I do that? I don't have to take a course. There are a lot of people with podcasts that have clearly not taken courses. Okay, why would that make sense for me? Okay, what I want to do is I want to reduce the amount of time that it would take for me to discover things on my own. I want to reduce the trial and error associated with getting a podcast up and running. So if there's something out there that can teach me the basics to reduce or eliminate trial and error, I want to do that. That's why it gets me closer, okay? Woo, there we go. This rationale thing, so many people are like, ah, Nicole, it's so obvious. It's like, do I have to write that down? That's so lame. And then 6 months into the year, you either don't keep your why close enough to you, so you lose track and lose motivation, or you're doing something and you forget why you're doing it. Why am I doing this? This is lame. Yeah, don't be that person. Make sure you know exactly why you're doing the things that you're doing. Be that person instead, okay? Timeline, be specific, right? Be specific. I'm going to finish that course by 5 p.m. January 31st. Exciting. Okay, I have a couple more decisions. I'll go through these a little bit more quickly, but I actually, again, applied the DART method to this whole thing, so you guys can benefit from seeing how it works. Okay, secondly, is I want to listen to other podcasts and with a critical eye toward them. So not so much content, but what is it about the format? What appeals to me about it? Why is that a good podcast versus another podcast that doesn't resonate with me? What is it about that kind of episode and how that episode was run versus another kind of episode that wasn't so good? Start to tease out what I think a good podcast is. That's number 2. What works and what doesn't, okay? So that is also me. But here's the thing. With accountability, I'm also going to be asking other people, right? Now, they are not obligated to respond to me, but I'm going to ask around. What podcasts do you like? Why do you like them? What is it about them, right? I may get no takers, in which case accountability is still me, because I'm ultimately responsible for that. I have to do my own assessment, but I'm going to ask around also, okay, and just kind of gather information to help support that decision, okay? Now, the rationale behind that is to discover what kind of podcast tone and format will be good for me and my people, right? Discover the tone and format that's going to work best for me and the people that I'm doing the podcast for, my future listeners. Okay. So I'm also going to do that same timeline. Okay. Same. Okay. I have another decision. You ready? Are you guys doing this? Think about whatever your desired condition is, you have a goal. You have a goal that if you meet that goal, that gets you closer to this, right? What decisions are you making? Why do those decisions make any sort of sense at all? Go ahead and write it down. Okay, then set some timelines. Okay. I'm not holding you to this. You're probably doing this for the first time. That's okay. Write something down. Keep going through the exercise with me. It's really important. Even if you decide to change the timelines and all of that kind of stuff, even if you're not entirely sure about the rationale, just do it. Just do it. Go through the exercise. Okay. All right. Next, I want to record some episodes. I'm going to say 4. Record 4 episodes to start. And I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna get feedback. I get feedback from other people. Now I'm gonna put friends and family here also, because if the whole point is to get feedback, okay, this decision can't actually get a checkbox unless I have some feedback from other people. So yeah, so it's not just me accountability, but it's other people, getting people to agree and then holding them to the agreement that they said they're going to listen to these 4 episodes and give me some feedback. Okay. So why would I do that? Test drive, right? Make adjustments before I go live, right? That's my shorthand. Opportunity to make changes. I want to make sure, the reason I'm doing this is if there is some really straightforward feedback, especially if there's consensus around, Nicole, you talk too fast. Nicole, these concepts are too esoteric. Nicole, you really need to have some more case study. I don't know what the feedback might be, right? But I want to give myself the opportunity to make some adjustments, if so. And like 1 episode is probably not going to be enough. I want to give people a couple, right? 4 to kind of sink their teeth into and have enough content to provide some really robust feedback. So that's my rationale. Okay, I will do that by the end of February. We're cranking. Do you see how this is working? Wait till you get to step 3 and 4. This is the easy stuff. This is probably the stuff that you do all the time, with the exception of the rationale, right? This is the thing. People never expressly articulate the rationale for the decisions that they're making because it's so obvious, or I don't need to do it. No, this is really important, but wait until we get to steps 3 and 4. Oh, so good. Okay. After that, after I get the feedback, I'm going to re-record and actually post to platforms. That makes me a little nervous, but that decision has to be there, right? This is the whole thing, meeting my 2021 goal. I'm going to start a podcast, and I'm going to start right out of the gate with a handful of episodes. I'm not going to just post 1. I want to give people a better sense of what they would be getting out of this podcast on an ongoing basis. Okay. So that's me. Right. And the reason I'm doing that, and the reason I'm doing 4 is, again, to give people the opportunity to really get a sense of the podcast on an ongoing basis. Okay. Binge. People binge podcasts, don't they? I do. I do, especially if they're short, right? My first 4 podcast episodes are probably not going to be an hour long. Listen, if it's a new podcast, right? I'm probably not, give me a quick sense of what it's like. And, do I want to hear Nicole drone on for an hour? Probably not. The first one, 20 minutes, cool. I got a good sense of that. I think I want to listen to another one. Hit next. Another 20 minutes. Oh, okay. You want to give people an opportunity to binge. I want to give people an opportunity to binge. And they're probably not going to binge with like 4-hour-long episodes. I don't think so. Okay. Are we done? No, I have one more decision that's going to support my goal. It's going to get me closer to this desired condition where people have access. How do I increase access to this podcast? I want to make sure that I tell people in advance, right here, when I'm asking for feedback from friends and family and past clients. I want to ask them, I'm going to plant the seed in their mind. When this posts, I want you to rate and review. I'm going to be posting April 1st, by the way. By 7 a.m. on April 1st, all of these initial episodes will be posted to podcast platforms. Okay. And then the last step is to ask friends, family, past clients to rate and review. Plant that in their mind in advance. Okay. I say F and F for friends and family, but I mean past clients. I mean all of you guys. All of you guys. I want you to rate and review my new podcast, okay? Okay, the reason I want to do that is I want to increase awareness. The more a podcast has ratings and reviews, the more it's accessible to people, right? And so if my goal is that everybody should have access to this information, right? Even if I'm not personally coaching you one-on-one, if my goal is I want to make these emotional management tools in the workplace available to all, I need to make sure that this podcast is maximized in terms of marketing, access, where it shows up in iTunes or Spotify or whatever the platform is. And ratings and reviews are a way to do that. Those are my decisions, guys. What do you think? Do you have decisions that you've made toward your goal? Do you know why? Do you know why you're making those decisions? Have you already set some timelines? It's very good, right? Okay. We are moving on to steps 3 and 4 of the DART method. Step 3 is a doozy. I have to tell you, step 3 is probably the most important part of the DART method besides this rationale. Step 3 is about surfacing all the reasons why you might not do it. Yeah. This, in all the planning systems that you've ever done, forever and ever, amen, how many of them said, okay, sounds good. So what's going to hold you back? Like, why wouldn't you do that thing? Right? Come 5 p.m., January 31st, if I haven't done this, what would be the reason that I haven't done it? Ooh, yeah, people don't think about that stuff in advance. They just look back, right? They look back and they say, well, this is why I didn't do it, because of X, Y, and Z. But what if you tried to surface those things in advance? What if you tried to surface all those things and then addressed them before before you started to execute? Yeah, let's do it now. Let's do it now. Okay. Step 3, guys, you ready? Okay. Now, if you've seen the DART webinars in the past, you know all about step 3. Step 3 is where I talk about my why not matrix. Okay, so I'm going to draw the matrix. I'm not going to do it in a lot of detail because this is all about implementation, but you will see how it works based on the goal that I'm doing and the goal that I'm working on. Okay, so here's the why not matrix. Okay. Oh, maybe you can't see that. At the top, there's a W and there's a U. This is willing or unwilling. Okay. And on the side, there's an E and an I. And the E is external and the I is internal. Okay. So what step 3 is you do just a brainstorm of the things that would hold you back, right? Why might you not execute on this goal? What would be preventing you from doing it? Okay. And then what you do is you take each one of those things that you list and you run them through this matrix, right? Are those limitations, those perceived blocks that you have in your future, those things that will prevent you from executing on your goal? It's each of those things an external factor that you have no control over, or is it internal? Does it have to do with your own mindset about your own perceived limitations, right? And then is it something that you're willing to accept about your external circumstances or your internal limitations, or are you totally unwilling to accept it? This is the why not matrix. Okay. Now, the way it works, instead of drawing it in a little box, I'm just going to write it out. Okay. So if you have an external factor that you can't control and you're unwilling to accept it, the way you address that why not is you set a boundary. I'm not going to go into setting boundaries right now. I have so many videos on setting a boundary appropriately. Go watch those on the YouTube channel. They're so good. But I'm not going to go through them now. Okay. Now, if it's an external circumstance or person that you have no control over, we can't control other people, right? We know that. Okay. And it's something that you are willing to accept. Basically, you are not prepared to take drastic measures to set a boundary, right? So you're willing to accept it, but you still want to address it. Here you create workarounds or compromises. Workaround or compromise. Okay. Next is, what if some of the reasons why you might not execute on your goals has to do with your own thinking, has to do with internal limitations, right? Okay, if you have some of those internal things, this is the time. Don't ignore those things and then be at the end of Q1 or midway through the year and just sort of like, oh, I didn't do any, yeah, don't be that. Go ahead and admit, be honest with yourself about mentally and emotionally why you might not do the things that you said you would do. All those decisions that I made around starting a podcast, why might not I do those? Yeah, a lot of that is going to be internal. Now, if you are unwilling to accept those internal limitations and you're willing to address them, the way to address them is through coaching. You don't have to pay me. I'm very good, but you don't have to pay me. You could get coached through anybody else, right? You can self-coach. I give you all kinds of tools through these webinars and through everything else, right? Tools and resources for you to coach yourself through those internal limitations, those perceived limitations that you have about yourself. Go ahead and surface those now. Start to deal with them now before you find yourself midway through the year having done nothing that you said you would do. Okay. Now, if you have internal limitations and you're unwilling to address them, you just have to accept the consequences. You get what you get. Okay. Okay, guys, that's step 3. That's the why not matrix. Okay, so when I think about doing a podcast, what are my why nots? Ooh, this is uncomfortable, but that's okay. I want to show you guys how to do it. I'll be vulnerable. I'll show you guys how it's done. Okay. So I came up with a handful of why nots. One is, well, that I have no idea what I'm doing, that I'm going to suck at it. There's just one limitation that I have in my head, rational or not, that I'm going to be terrible at this. The podcast will be awful. And I'm so worried about that. I'm so afraid of that, that maybe that's going to hold me back from going for it full bore. I have to put that out there. I have to put it out there. I'm afraid. I'm afraid. Okay, what else? You know, the thought has occurred to me that maybe my business is too early to start a podcast. Maybe I need a bigger following in order to launch a podcast successfully. Okay. Another thing, you know, if I put myself midway through the year and I haven't met those goals, I haven't put out 4 podcast episodes, I haven't continued to do that, you know, if I'm not where I need to be to meet that 2021 goal of starting a podcast, one reason that I would give, that my future self would give for not doing it, is I didn't have time. I didn't have time, or other things came up, other things that were priority came up. You see how this works? Are these why nots similar to your why nots? Some version of fear, some version of time limitation, scarcity of resources. All of this, by the way, step 3 of the DART method is surfacing scarcity of resources. Time, money, confidence, support. I don't have support. Yeah, scarcity of resources, guys. That's step 3. Identify those things. The reason I don't talk about scarcity of resources at the very beginning is people only think about time and money. When you could have a scarcity of confidence, you could have a scarcity of belief in your own ability to do something, right? This is where all the internal stuff comes from, right? So I don't want you to think about resources only in terms of time or money. That's why I just talk about all of the why nots. What is your future self going to say if you don't do the things? Okay, I have one more, which is that my family just took precedence. Family obligations came up, and that means I didn't do the things. Right? Okay. That's different. So the third one, no time or other priorities, I was thinking about that in terms of work, other work priorities. But then there's even outside of work, there's family. Okay. There may be others. There may be others, but this is a good list. I mean, these are the things that in the past, they've always held me back before. I know these are the things that would hold me back in the future. So let's deal with them. Okay. I might suck. Is that internal or external? That's internal. That is a thought that I have that doesn't help me at all. Okay. Am I willing to accept that within the context of meeting this goal? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Internal, unwilling to accept. Okay. I need to be coached on this thought. I need to be coached on this internal limitation. Luckily, I have a business coach. I'm talking to her on Monday. I'm going to bring this up. Okay. But I have tools. I can self-coach on this too. Okay. Next, it's too early. I need more followers. You know what this is? This is where I see it a lot. I see it a lot, especially in women. I haven't seen it a lot in men. It may exist with men, but I haven't seen it as much, which is this concept of, I don't want to put something out there unless it's really, really good or it meets my standard, right? This is perfection, right? Perfection over progress. Now, the reason perfection, that word doesn't always resonate with people is because people insist, no, I'm not, I know I'm not perfect. I know I'm not trying to put out a perfect product, but they have a standard, a personal standard. And until it meets that personal standard, they're not going to put it out there. They will constantly research. They will constantly revise. They will constantly be in a learning cycle and not just do the thing, because they don't want to put themselves out there because it's not meeting some internal standard that they have. They don't want to call it perfection because they may not think it's perfection, but that's that concept. And I know that this is something that I have also. So it's definitely internal, and I'm unwilling to accept this, okay? I'm going to be coached on progress over perfection, not the other way around. Put something out there. And you know what? When I do the podcast assessment, that's one of the decisions that I made to support my goal of starting a podcast. The assessments, I think it's worthwhile for me now that I think about it. Now that I think about it, I think for the podcasts that I'm assessing, I'll listen to an early episode versus a recent episode, right? These are for podcasts that have millions and millions of downloads. Chances are when they started, right? Not as polished as they are now. And yet they have millions of downloads, right? I need to coach on that. I need to self-coach on that. Okay. Okay. The next one, no time, other work obligations, things keep coming up. Oh my gosh, this all the time, all the time. This is why I don't meet my goals. Not anymore. Not anymore. That's an internal thought. Now, some people say this and they say, no, that's external circumstance. External. But the reality is you're the one that's setting the priorities. Okay. If you believe for yourself that that's external, the other work obligations just take precedence. Okay. Okay. Then you're either trying to find a workaround or a compromise, right? Or you just have to accept that you don't get the podcast off the ground. I don't get the podcast off the ground. You just have to be willing to accept the trade-off that it might not be done. See, now you're facing that today rather than 6 months in, right? And going, what happened? If you know in advance other things, you prioritize other things at work, and this is going to keep moving to the back burner, well, what are you going to do about that? Right? Don't wait to like learn that later. No, face it now. Face it now. Okay. I know this is an internal thing for me, right? I keep calling other things priorities, but here's the thing. Those other things that take precedence over starting a podcast, are those things? Are they on my goal list? Have I made decisions around those things? If I'm doing other things, is that ultimately helping me get closer to my desired condition of making sure this information is out there, that it's accessible to people so they can implement it in their day-to-day work lives? Are all the other things that I'm doing supporting that purpose? That's why it's important to set that purpose. That is the anchor. That's the lens through which you're evaluating all of your behavior, right? Okay. I need to be coached on that too. Okay. Family obligations. This one is external. It's definitely external. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. Yeah. I have people that depend on me, right? So this is a very real thing. There are family obligations. So that is an external thing that is a very real, that's not just my mindset. I have family obligations, okay? Those externalities, I am totally, absolutely willing to accept, 100%. I love being a mom. I love being a wife. If those family obligations come up and are impacting my decisions, executing on this goal towards starting a podcast in 2021, what's EW? Workaround and compromise. Workaround and compromise. I'm going to talk to my husband about this stuff, right? Hey, I'm starting a podcast. I'm releasing 4 episodes on April 1st. What types of things might come up? Okay. So you get to decide that in advance. The DART method surfaces this stuff now, so you can address them now. Rather, because what happens when you have family obligations and then you have the conflict? What happens? Now, then spouses fight, right? I've seen it a lot of times. Women are stomping around. My husband isn't doing enough. Where's that stemming from? Where's that stemming from? It only becomes an issue and blows up when you feel scarcity of resources, right? You have competing obligations, competing roles, and it's coming to a head. And all of a sudden, now it's a problem. Prevent it from being a problem. You know that this is something that's potentially going to hold you back. That might be a reason your future self will give you for having not done the things, right? Address it now. All right, guys, I have 10 minutes left and we have step 4 to do. Step 4, you use your calendar, but you got to use it the right way. Don't use the calendar the wrong way anymore. Don't do that anymore. Calendar your wins. Okay, so once you've made all these decisions and you have the deadlines for them, now you have to populate your calendar to actually do the things. Okay, how do you do that? One thing that you do is what I mean by calendar your wins is you set time aside in your calendar to hit milestones. Be really specific about what you accomplish, what you complete in that time. It is not enough to say, work on podcast. No. Okay. So you work backwards. You start with the dates that you decided in the DART columns, right? Go ahead and put those in there. So 7 a.m., April 1st, okay, I'm going to block that time out. And what that calendar item is going to say is 4 podcast episodes are live. They are live and available for download. That's it. Go ahead and put that on there. Now, for that, and so you'll do that for all of the dates that you decided, the timelines that you decided on those decisions that you made, right? So January 31st, right? Jenna Kutcher's course completed. Okay. So once you have those milestones in your account, you work backwards. Right? So for each of those decisions, there are probably steps. You just need to populate your calendar with how long is it going to take to do the course? Am I going to do it one day, 1 hour a day, or, just do, a whole day a week? Like, how am I going to get through that course? Go ahead and populate your calendar, but say what you're going to do, what you will have to show for that time. You can't just work on something, right? Get through module 1, complete module 1, right? Accountability, right? Somebody willing to be an accountability partner with me. Submit my exercises from module 1 to blank by that day, by that chunk of time in your calendar. That's how you populate your calendar to get things done. What happens is people have timelines, milestones that they're supposed to meet, but they don't set themselves up along the way. I mean, they might set time aside, right? People block time off on their calendar all the time, but that doesn't mean that they're holding themselves accountable to actually accomplishing something, to defining their progress, and to celebrating their interim accomplishments. They just block off time. People block off time to write. Write what? Write 3 pages? Write, 1,000 words? Write, I don't know, something specific. How are you going to know that you're making progress. Define it in advance. You decide in advance to calendar your wins along the way. Little wins in addition to the big ones. Okay, so that's what I want you guys to do for the remainder of this exercise is pull up your calendar, put in the milestones, and then just block out the time. And here's the thing. Some people say, well, I don't know how much time it's going to take. I know. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. Right? Because one of two things will happen. One is that you may actually do the thing. You may do it. When you say that you are going to record a podcast episode in 1 hour, and if you do that in your calendar and you have no idea, can I do that in an hour? I don't know. Put it in there and see. A lot of times what happens is you actually accomplish it, right? Secondly is, okay, maybe you need to figure out how long this stuff takes, but that discovery process is so good and it's so critically important, right? Because what's happening is you can make adjustments along the way and you're not kidding yourself. Here's the thing, you're not kidding yourself, right? You know, if I am there saying that I'm going to finish this online course on podcasting best practices by January 31st, okay, and I set the time aside in my calendar, and it becomes imminently obvious that, yeah, that timeline, despite my best efforts and addressing all of my why nots, yeah, that's not going to happen. It's okay. Adjust it. But now you know, right? It's awful to just kind of set a goal, set a timeline and cross your fingers. Maybe it'll happen. I think that'll happen. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Set the time in the calendar. If you need to adjust, that's fine. But when you adjust right away. Don't say, well, that didn't happen. I'll figure that out later. If you I couldn't record a podcast episode and edit it in an hour, okay, I'm not going to say, oh, that didn't work. Well, I'll figure that out later. At that moment, I'm adjusting my calendar. Listen, the DART method is the way you succeed. The DART method is how you meet or exceed your goals. So don't ignore this. This is how you bring mental and emotional management into your work life, your personal life. This is how you succeed. Okay? Don't put your head in the sand about any of this stuff. Follow through with the why not matrix. Calendar your wins. Make sure you know why you're doing the things that you're doing. Make sure you like those reasons. Then you know what? You do all that, you meet your goals. You meet your goals. Beautiful thing. Okay, guys. I can't wait to hear about all of your goal setting and the implementation of the DART method for you. Hopefully you've enjoyed this workshop. You will get a replay so you can go watch it again and again and again. And I want to hear back from you. So let me know how it goes. If you're getting stuck, let me know that too. And let's work through it. Okay, guys, have a wonderful day and keep working. Keep working. I want to see everybody be successful in 2021. Okay, take care. Bye.